I'm a wannabe golfer. My name is Sandeep Das. When I don't golf, I play this Indian instrument called the Tabla, two little drums that's played with the hands and fingers. I've been playing this instrument since I was 6 years old and playing professionally for the last 30 years.
My name is Bailey O'Donnell. I've been learning the tabla now for about 6 years, and before that I was actually playing Western classical percussion. My mom met Guruji Sandeep Das at this workshop, and she saw him play, and she had a conversation with him afterwards, and she convinced him to start teaching me. So at the time I was in California and I started learning online. This was pre-COVID, so it was sort of uncharted territory learning an instrument online. But it worked out and I really fell in love with it. And I decided after I finished my college degree that I wanted to move to the East Coast, to Boston, to continue learning.
In India, for those of you that don't know, we have two traditions. One from the north, which is called the Hindustani classical music, and the other from south of India, which is called Carnatic style of classical music. The tabla, two little pair of drums, represent the North Indian classical music of India. It's fairly a new instrument. When I say new instrument, because as you know, with most things Indian, they date back to thousands of years. The tabla is new because the history is not, more than 300 to 500 years old. It's a drum that has repertoire that you can play solo. It can be played with vocal music, instrumental music, dance music. And if you have learned it well, you can pretty much play it with anyone and any kind of music from around the world. My journey with this instrument started by a complaint. It was by accident. It was a complaint that my father got from the principal of my school. I was 6 years old. My father was told that I have been disturbing the class by tapping on the desk. So the advice to my father was that I should be taken to a doctor. Thankfully, I had a very, very smart father who, instead of taking me to a doctor, got me my first pair of the tablas that very evening. And my first lesson was with my first guru, Shiv Kumar Singh Ji, that very night. There is a very strong tradition in India which is called the Guru-Shishya Parampara. Guru is the term that loosely means the teacher. Gu means darkness. Ru is light. So practically anyone who takes you away from darkness of any kind and shows you the path is your guru. Shishya, translated in English, means disciple. So the Guru-Shishya tradition, which has been prevalent for thousands and thousands of years, is where a student goes and lives with his guru to learn anything. I learned the same way. I went to one of the biggest names of tabla playing. My second guru was Pandit Kishan Maharaj Ji. And I actually went and lived in his house for 12 years. You become a part of the family. You learn music as a way of life, doing chores. I worked in his garden, cleaned his car, went and got grocery. I did that. And in exchange, you learn the instrument. A lot of the times, the lessons were not even when I was near the instrument or even in his house. For example, he loved riding horses. So, in the evening, we would ride horses. One day, I was probably 15 or 16 years old at that time. He said, "Hey, what's this? What is this horse telling you?" The horse was not telling me anything, So I said, I don't know. He was disappointed. He looked at me and he said, "Isn't it going taka taka takita, taka taka takita?" And suddenly I could hear that pattern, taka taka takita, taka taka takita. Then he said, "Improvise it with it." How do you improvise with a horse? But slowly when I started hearing that taka taka takita, taka taka takita, dena takita ta, dena takita, dharagana 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 da, dena takita, dharagana dharagana dena takita. So anytime I am playing that kind of a pattern, it's the horse running free. Then working in the garden, cleaning his car, didn't make sense when I was a little child, but it taught me discipline. It taught me how to keep focus even when the elements are not exactly what you demand. And guess what? As a professional musician, you face that every day.
The lesson, when we're sitting down to play the instrument, it's kind of, it's very based on listening, and there's a spoken component to the tabla too, which is really amazing. So everything that you play also has a syllable. So if he's teaching me a new composition, he'll teach the syllables to me first. So it would be, for example, one of the first ones you learn is da da te te da da dinna ta ta te te da da dinna, and then you learn what each da is one note, te te is another note, dinna. So all of these are played differently, and then there's this really amazing back and forth when you're playing. So he'll play a variation on a composition, and then it's kind of my job to pick it up as fast as possible. The way he's playing it, the way he's inflecting his low drum or the higher drum, and like where the accent and the emphasis are, and to kind of play it back together. So it's really, it's kind of hands-on in the moment way of learning. He can teach a composition, when I'm with him anywhere. And so one memory I have, which I really like, I had gone with him to a master class he was teaching, and we were walking through downtown Boston, and he started teaching me a tabla composition. So we're, walking down the street. It's kind of surreal in a way, because everyone's going about their business, and, cars are going by and whatnot, but we're here learning. He's teaching me this tabla composition, it was like and we're kind of going back and forth. Just he's teaching me this composition and I'm repeating it just as we're walking through the city.
I feel it's very important that the younger generation is exposed. Take my example. If my father didn't have the vision to take me to a guru and let me experience the traditional way of learning something for 12 years, I would probably be doing something like every other Indian child, be a software engineer, doctor, or probably making more millions. But you know what? I'm happy because I get to do what I want to do. So with Bailey here, I feel she's a girl that I'm convinced that has an old soul, which has probably been to India or is from India, has played this instrument, but she is someone that loves this instrument, understands the nuances, and I am a strict guru. I'm doing things, I'm teaching her the way my guru taught me, because I have benefited from that, and I think that's one of the best ways to transferring my information. So here she is. She's been with me for almost 5 years. Maybe I'm wrong, 5 or 6 years now. There are no timetables, no schedules, but she has to earn her lessons. Just because she's here doesn't mean that she will get a lesson every day, unless and until I'm satisfied with what I have taught. I teach her one thing. What is she doing with that? Because if I tell you something very interesting, my last formal lesson with my guru was, God knows, 25 years back. He passed away 15 years back. But won't you be surprised if I tell you that I'm still learning from him? Because that's the way information was shared, that one thing translates into 10 things if you invest. So I set up the same expectations, same challenges, because I see no other way. You can be a good tabla player, you can be a good musician, but you will never break that ceiling of becoming excellent unless you go through that process.
I've kind of fallen in love with this instrument. I feel that more so than anything else I've played, I just have this connection, and I find it very beautiful, the music. Also the culture, the way of thinking about rhythm, and the way of learning, I just really, really love. His way of teaching and his philosophy of teaching have really changed my life in a lot of ways. It's, as he was mentioning in his interview a little bit earlier, music is also, he says music is a way of life. And just that idea that anything you do affects who you are as a musician, what you do, you know, if you're washing a car, if you're working in a garden, if you're even just talking to people, all of those things affect the way you play and perform. And it's a really amazing way of looking at things. And just being on stage with your teacher is a really amazing experience, because there's a lot of things that otherwise you wouldn't ever have a chance to encounter in a classroom setting. And just kind of seeing how everything happens in a real life situation, I think has been a really amazing part of this apprenticeship.
When I was approached to see if I can do something for the concert coming up Thursday, August 10th, the first request was for me to do something. But hey, you know what? I'm constantly performing, I'm constantly playing all around the world. But just like my guru, who kicked my behind and suddenly started putting me up on stage, if I don't do that to Bailey and my other students, they will never experience the real deal. So this event, I have named it Taal Mudra. Taal means rhythm. Mudra is expressions. I have three of my students. A dance student of mine who will dance this North Indian traditional classical dance called Kathak. And Mudra means facial expressions, hand gestures. So Indian classical dances have lots of that. But why I chose this particular kind of dance, because this goes hand in hand with the tabla. So it has a student of mine, Shonool Malik, who will be dancing, Bailey O'Donnell on the tabla, and then another younger kid, Sriram Akella, on the tabla. So the second half will be dance and tabla. Come happy. Just keep the minds, the windows inside your mind and heart open, and leaving you with something that you will take back home. So don't worry, just come. I can guarantee that you will go back having seen and experiencing something that you will cherish for the rest of your life.
I really think this is something that everyone should do. Go out and kind of absorb yourself in a different culture that's completely different from what you know, because learning Indian classical music has given me a completely new perspective on everything I already knew musically, and also beyond that.
First of all, I'm so grateful that there are organizations like this in the US that are thinking, that are contributing, because as the whole world is changing, life is changing, support like this makes a huge difference in continuing traditional arts, traditional music. So first of all, thanks for this, support that Bailey got. If you see love, joy, and happiness anytime in your life, go out and share it. The world needs it.